Hello, Ken. This is my Michigan Wolverine versus Nebraska Cornhusker post game. Wow, what a game! Right, what a game. Before I dive into it too much, remember to like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell down below. I do greatly appreciate it. Wow, what an exciting game! What a fun game to watch. Except I'm going to start out with this so I can just get it out of the way, and then we'll move on. I'm just going to say it real quick. Big Ten, fix your officiating. Please. It's not good. I say that as a fan of the winning team. The officiating was terrible for both teams. Harbaugh had to challenge a play. That was obvious, right? Scott Frost, on the same series, had to challenge a play to get it overturned. That was obvious. Why is the booth not calling down on these plays? They were obvious changes that need to be made. Both coaches were irate, and rightfully so, and things just never got better. That game, from an officiating standpoint, sorry, I'm adjusting my mic real quick. That game, from an officiating standpoint, was atrocious. Again, I say this as the fan of the winning team. This isn't me, crying over spilt milk, trying to feel like we got robbed by bad officiating. That's not what I'm saying. Please, everyone, understand what I'm saying. I am saying that we as fans, the coaches, the players, they deserve better. The product is not good enough. The officiating needs to be fixed. It's been bad for a while. I just wanted to say it and get it out of the way. I'm not saying one team got an advantage over the other. I'm saying the officiating is just bad. Both sides. Both teams got screwed on a lot of calls. I think it was just that took away from the game a little bit. But let's focus on the game. I wanted to say that to get it out of the way. I've said it before. Man, the officiating, it's not that they're really giving one team an advantage. The officiating is just terrible. There were obvious plays like Michigan not being given the first down when everybody saw that he clearly got the first down. And why is the booth not calling down? Do they just fall asleep up there? It's mind-blowing, and Michigan getting called for a touchdown when there were obviously not touchdowns. That one where McNamara, his foot was stepped on and was trying to hand the ball off and his knee went down, I knew that was getting overturned right away. And the fact that the booth didn't call down and Scott Frost has to challenge it and scream at the officials is just absurd. Absurd. Whoever was in the booth should be fired. Sorry, you should be. You fell asleep on the job. Those were obvious calls that needed to be reviewed and overturned, and it took the coaches screaming at the on-field officials and getting them to review the call. That's unacceptable. Sorry, I want to get that out of the way real quick. So let's get down to the game, right? Let's get down to what we really care about. I did say going into this one that Nebraska is not the same team that lost to Illinois, right? They're getting better every week. They're becoming scary. They're that team that can upset anybody, and that's where they're at right now. They're just a few plays away from they're having their season completely different. A different play here or there against Michigan, they win that game. A different play here or there against Michigan State, they win that game. A play here or there against Illinois, they win that game. Really, really close games. Martinez is boom and bust. He helps and hurts that team so much. It's ridiculous. He's a heck of a playmaker, but at the same time, man, late in the game like that, dude, you just got to take care of the football. There's no reason he should be fighting for extra yards and allowing Michigan to strip the ball, and ultimately ended up giving them the win. It's just carelessness. It's kind of the way his career has gone to this point. But, man, the plays he made were dynamic and good when he's on. When he's on, he's amazing. And then he'll have a little bit of a brain fart, and a bad thing will happen, and then it's enough to cost him the game. But, I knew it was going to be – I knew it could go a lot of different ways. I knew Nebraska was a better team than they had showed to this point in the year. But, Michigan did what they had to do to win the game, so you got to give them credit for that. The run game got going. 200 yards as a team is pretty darn good. I love the fact that they stuck with Haskins early and often. Corum did not have a whole lot of success on his early carries. Nebraska really had all eyes on him to keep him hemmed in and prevent him from making those big plays, but they could not stop Haskins from getting at least 3 yards a pop, even early in the game. Like I said after last week's video, if you do not hit him with a defensive lineman, you are not stopping him short of getting a couple yards. of wherever you hit him. He's always getting at least 2 more yards. And he showed it again against Nebraska. There was a couple times where the linebacker would come downhill and try to fill that hole, and he couldn't stop him short. Haskins he just bowls his way and falls forward for a couple extra yards. It's just what he does. And I'm glad that they stuck with him early because I felt like that really opened things up for Corum late in the game. They decided early on, I feel like, maybe they didn't, but it looked like to me that Michigan decided early on, okay, they got all eyes on Corum, so what are we going to do? We're going to tire him out. We're going to wear him down. We're going to grind on him with our offensive line and by hammering Hassan Haskins at them. Let's just grind them down so when we put Corum in late in the game, they don't have the legs under them to stop him anymore. And that's basically what I feel like happened. That touchdown run that Corum had, he stopped on the dime and went right upfield, and there just wasn't anybody Nebraska had that had enough gas left or was quick enough at that point in the game to shut that gap down because it was a bit of a stretch play, and to get out there, shut that gap down, and stop Corum. And I think a lot of that was set up by Michigan deciding, okay, Haskins is working right now. Let's just continue to grind it, and then hopefully things open up in the second half, and they did. What else did we see? McNamara was okay. He was just okay. The offensive line played pretty well, I feel like, for the most part. Nebraska has a pretty good defense that's getting better every single week. So they did play pretty well. Not a good game for our wide receivers. They didn't really ever win a one-on-one matchup. Nebraska's secondary is good. I will give them credit. You got to give credit where credit's due. They are very good, but a couple of those jump balls, sometimes Michigan's got to win those. You got to find a way to win those. But also not the best throws, It helps a lot if your quarterback can make that throw, and McNamara so far has struggled to make any of those throws. The fade routes, the deep balls down the field. He's not been able to connect. But I'll touch on that a little bit more later. Defensively, continuing to look good. I did say last week that I feel like Daxton Hill is one of the best safeties in the country, and again this week he showed why. He's a playmaker. He's all over the field. They're asking him to cover tight ends and wide receivers and basically anybody whenever they need him to, and he's there. He's there to make a play. He's been beaten once or twice, but more often than not, he wins that matchup. And he's also stout against the run, so really great job there. I wish the defensive tackles would have brought the game that they brought to Wisconsin. Part of the reason why Nebraska was able to make some plays and why Adrian Martinez was really able to hurt Michigan was because they did not get the push in the middle that Michigan had got against Wisconsin, and that falls on the defensive tackles. Hutchinson and Ajabu were flying up the field. I'm okay with that game plan. You send your defensive ends hard up the field to keep Martinez in the pocket. If he's going to beat you, he's going to have to step forward instead of running out and gaining the edge. They just weren't getting any help up the middle. We got no push up the middle, so Adrian Martinez was able to step up into the pocket to make throws or even step up to find a running lane. And the defensive tackles and the linebackers just didn't do a good enough job of shutting down the middle. That's what it is. Adrian Martinez is going to make some plays for sure, but I feel like a lot of his success was based on the fact that he was able to just step up at will and escape the pass rush of Ajabu and Hutchinson for the majority of that game. Corners got to be better. We got beat on way too many balls that we should not have been beat on. Jamon Green and Vincent Gray, you've got to get your head around and locate the football. I mean, you have to. You have to. We're being beat on back shoulders. We're being beat on wide receivers going and high pointing the ball because we're just not good at turning around and finding it. They were in position. There's been plenty of times this season where Jamon Green and Vincent Gray is in position to make the play. They just don't make the play. A lot of that is because they're either not turning their head around or they're not turning their head around and locating the football. So they really need to put some work in practice on that. That's killing them right now. I didn't really see them get beat a lot, just straight up beat by, not being there in coverage. But they got beat playing contested balls. They just did. So that's got to be improved. Special teams, pretty good for the most part. Henning's got to learn, if a ball gets a little bit squirrely, if you're not absolutely certain you can settle under it, just let it go. I don't care if it gets down on the 1 yard line. It's better than a turnover. They got fortunate, very fortunate that wasn't a turnover. That could have changed the entire game right there. That may have been a bad call. It's hard to tell at the bottom of the pile. I initially thought Nebraska had recovered it. They ruled it a contested recovery or a dual recovery, however they phrased it. And that goes to the receiving team, just like a contested catch would. But, man, that's just a ball he didn't need to go after. Just let it go. Yes, it probably gets downed inside the 10-yard line. That's okay. You live with that. But you can't live with a turnover down there. That would have been killer. That would have cost them the game. But a great job by the defense of ripping the ball out late in that game. Standing up the ball carrier, Martinez in this case, and just ripping at that ball was a great play. It's exactly what Michigan needed, and that's what gave them the win. Sometimes you got to capitalize on the other team's mistakes, and that's what they did. So it wasn't pretty all the time, but it is what it is. They found a way to win it, and that's what's important. Play calling, I felt like, was okay. A lot of what we had already seen to this point in the season. I think Mike McDonald. I did it again. Haven't done it in a few weeks. Mike McDonald's play calling continues to be pretty good overall. I think there are a few times where he got a little bit too safe and a little too concerned about Adrian Martinez when he should have been helping to stuff up the middle by sending some linebackers. Instead, he was sending them into coverage. At the end of the day, it worked because they won. Maybe a little bit of a different philosophy from me compared to what he was thinking. He gets paid to make those decisions. I don't. That's fair. But I feel like there were times where he could have sent some linebacker blitzes a little bit more. I'm not saying he needs to do it on every single play. But there was a few situational moments where I feel like he could have brought a linebacker blitz and made things a little more difficult for Martinez to step up and get out of there. Now, the flip side is that if he does break containment and your linebacker misses, he's gone. So, there's something to be said for bend, don't break, but they almost broke. So, something to keep an eye on moving forward, especially against some other mobile quarterbacks that Michigan's going to see. Offensive play calling, I'm still not overly thrilled with it, but, they're winning games, so it is what it is for now. The situations when you put J.J. McCarthy in, I question a lot of those decisions. I don't question them using J.J. McCarthy. I question when you're putting him in and what you're asking him to do when you put him in there. Don't put him in there on the goal line and tell him and just run read option. Everybody knows when you put him in there, he's probably going to run it, right? Like that's the thought. That's the expectation. They're putting in their freshman quarterback down here in this situation. They're probably just going to run it, and that's what Michigan did. And you're showcasing your hand. If you're going to put him down there, run play action and let him throw the ball, or roll him out and let him run or throw. You got to give him some sort of passing option, or you're just tipping your hand to the defense. Yeah, that's where I'm at on play calling. So, yeah, Nebraska put up a heck of a fight. Give them credit. They're playing well. They're playing a lot better than what they looked like to begin the season. They're getting some things settled on special teams, which is helping them tremendously. But Michigan just found a way to win, and sometimes that's what you got to do. When you're on the road, it's a night game. You got a team that's desperate and hungry for a win. Sometimes you just got to go out and find a way to get the job done. Whether it's pretty or not, doesn't matter. Find a way to get it done, and that's what they did. So take it for what it's worth. Now I'm going to get into something a little more controversial, I guess is a word I would use. I think J.J. McCarthy should be the starting quarterback. That does not mean I'm taking anything away from Cade McNamara. That doesn't mean I don't think this team can win with Cade McNamara as their quarterback. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. We're undefeated right now. I understand the idea of not making changes. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I said last week. But now I'm going to give you some arguments of why I think J.J. McCarthy should be the quarterback. Based on the situations that you put J.J. McCarthy into this game, these were not like first down situations. these were third down and we need to make a conversion. There are, it's third down and we're in the goal line or we're in the red zone. And we're looking to try to score here, and you're putting J.J. McCarthy in the game. If you trust him that much to be in on those situations, he should probably be your starting quarterback. He should be. What else was there why else do I feel like he should be the starter? Because if your current starting quarterback is limiting your play selection, is limiting your playbook, you should not be playing him as your starting quarterback. The fact that you have to take Cade McNamara off the field and put J.J. McCarthy on to run read option means there is a part of your playbook that you want to use that Cade McNamara can't do. He can't do it. He doesn't have that physical ability. So if you want to use that in your playbook, which I think you should, and clearly they do want to use it, then why isn't J.J. McCarthy just your starting quarterback? Why not just be able to leave the same quarterback on the field, not tip your hand, and have the whole playbook open to you? What else? Another reason why J.J. McCarthy should be your starting quarterback. He's proven he can throw the deep ball and be on target with it. Cade McNamara has tried over and over and over again, and he can't do it. It's not in his skill set. He missed on the fade passes. He had some open receivers down the field, and he underthrew them and allowed the defender to come back and make a play. It's killing your offense, man. It really is. How many more points would Michigan have scored had they been able to hit some of those deep balls when the wide receiver had won that matchup? I can think of at least 2 touchdowns. Dalen Baldwin had beaten his corner pretty well. And Cornelius Johnson, I believe, had one as well. Those 2 would have been touchdowns. That's 14 points that you left out there because your current starting quarterback can't make the throw. He can't make the throw. He cannot be accurate with the deep ball. He's shown it. He's tried over and over again, and it's just not there. Go back and look at the ones he did complete even, and those are not the prettiest throws in the world. So those are reasons. Those are arguments for making J.J. McCarthy your starting quarterback. And what's the downside? Maybe he's not the leader that Cade McNamara is, or so that's what they're saying. That was the talk coming out of a camp, that Cade McNamara is our starter. He's a heck of a leader, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, if J.J. McCarthy comes out and starts lighting the world on fire and plays really well, well, guess who's automatically looked at as a leader now, right? Nothing elevates you to that level better than great play, in my opinion. And also, this offense has enough veterans on it that you don't need that guy to be, you're not desperate for your quarterback to be a leader because you don't have anybody else, right? You got plenty of other guys on the offensive side that could step up and fill that role. Either Hassan Haskins could do it. Cornelius Johnson's been around. Eric All. Most of your offensive line are guys that have been there for a while. They're veterans. So I think they're overvaluing the leadership role a little bit. At the end of the day, you still need your quarterback to be able to make throws and keep the defense honest, and Cade McNamara is just not that guy. How many times did you see Nebraska roll a safety into the box? Only every play? They're not worried about Cade McNamara beating them over the top. If you need a prime example of that, go back and watch that game and watch the way Nebraska was calling their defense. Michigan's wide receivers won those matchups sometimes on those deep passes because there was nobody over the top. Nebraska sold out to stop the run. Credit to Michigan's offensive line for, finding a way to open up holes, even though they were bringing extra guys into the box. They did a really good job, but man, your quarterback's limiting your offense, and that becomes a problem at a certain point, especially when you start playing better and better teams. I understand that that's what Cade McNamara is doing. The interception Cade McNamara threw is just unacceptable. You got to be able to read the safety and find out where he is on the field, especially if you're throwing over the middle. He just threw that right to the safety, never saw him, even though, the safety was basically in that position from the start of the play. He crept down a little bit, and McNamara just never saw him. So, other than that, though, McNamara's done a good job taking care of the football. Okay, I would agree with that. But in doing so, he's also not making any dynamic plays, and so the defense is going to continue to crowd the box. That's just what it is. So I know it's controversial. I didn't want to come into this and just say, "Oh, J.J. McCarthy should be your quarterback." The backup quarterback's always the best guy. The starter isn't doing what I think he should be doing. You should be playing the backup. It's not like that. I promise you, I'm not just calling for the backup to call for the backup, and that's why I wanted to give you some arguments of why I feel like it might be time to start to look at making that change. Clearly, they trust J.J. McCarthy. They're putting him in critical situations. If you have that level of trust, he might as well be your starter. J.J. McCarthy has the entire playbook at his disposal. Maybe he should be your starter. J.J. McCarthy can make throws that the other guy can't, that Cade McNamara can't. Maybe that guy should be your starter. Yeah, I know he's a true freshman. Yes, he's going to make some mistakes, but I believe the playmaking ability that he has with his legs and his arm will make up for a lot of those mistakes. So, there's certainly a discussion to be made there. I wanted to give some arguments. Last week I said stick with McNamara. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But now as I start to see this offense be limited by, now the narrative changes a little bit, right? We're seeing the offense feel like it's limited when McNamara's out there, and that's not a good feeling. So I wanted to present some arguments of why I think that that maybe J.J. McCarthy should be your starter. And I didn't want it to seem like I'm just calling for the backup, as an armchair quarterback calling for the backup just because I didn't like the starter or I don't feel like the starter's playing well. I do think you can win a lot of games with Cade McNamara, and you are losing a little bit when you take him off the field from a leadership standpoint. I'm not trying to devalue that entirely. I do think it's a little bit overplayed right now. It's almost feeling like an excuse to leave McNamara out there when everybody can see that McCarthy has a better arm. Okay, there's some decision-making that comes from experience, that McCarthy's not going to have. But when you have a run game that's as good as Michigan's is right now, it's a perfect situation to play a freshman quarterback. And I saw a few times where the wide receivers, Cornelius Johnson and Dalen Baldwin, looked like they were frustrated after Cade McNamara wasn't able to get them the ball when they had clearly beaten their defender. That's going to add up over time. These wide receivers are going to start to lose faith in Cade McNamara, and then it's going to turn into a really bad thing because it's the nature of it. Like, I'm beating my guy, but you can't get me the ball. This is a problem, especially for Dalen Baldwin, who J.J. McCarthy has had no problem dropping dimes on him. At some point, Dalen Baldwin's going to start thinking to himself, why is J.J. McCarthy not the quarterback? He can get me the ball. When I get open, when I beat my guy like I'm supposed to, when I do my job, he can do his job. The other guy, Cade McNamara, is not doing his job. He's not finding a way to get me the football when I win my my matchup. So those are some arguments. There is some developing controversy. I wanted to address it. I don't want to just sit here and ignore it. I don't expect any change to come soon, but I wanted to give some arguments of why I think that there is an argument to be made there and why I think J.J. McCarthy maybe should be the guy moving forward. It's a tricky situation for sure, but we'll just have to see how they do things moving forward. I expect to see J.J. McCarthy get more and more playing time. Clearly, the trust in him is growing based on the situations that they're putting him in there. So expect to see more McCarthy. He's not going away, that's for sure. So we'll see how things go moving forward. It's a good win for us, and we'll take it. Even if it's ugly sometimes. Sometimes you got to grit your teeth and find a way to get the victory, and that's what we did. So that'll wrap this one. Remember, all love, all the time. Peace.